Okay, so we are now very much recording, and let me open up Visual Studio Code and let me tell you what we are starting today. So we are starting today CSS, which is a very important and interesting part of our web world, and we'll be talking about that. Okay. So this was our week 9, and I won't be talking about week 9 anymore. So I'll be just talking about week 10 by the way. Okay. Right. So this is our week 10, and let me start a notes file for that. Notes.txt, where we'll just start. Okay, so what we are starting today, we are starting CSS, cascading style sheet. Cascading style sheets, right? And by the way, let me tell you that together, alongside JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, they collectively, if you remember, I've just already told you, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, together they make a very important bunch, and that is called front-end development. So we have already talked about HTML, we have already talked about JavaScript a lot in the deeper details. Now what we are starting is CSS, cascading style sheets. So what are cascading style sheets? A very easy definition of cascading style sheet is when you want to give styling to your document, to your websites, when you want to implement different interesting styles on that. Yeah, why not, Vinny? Go ahead. I was expecting questions. Yes, go ahead. You can unmute yourself and ask if you are feeling uncomfortable in typing. Okay, you're talking about the quiz. Okay, Vinny, I'll talk about that. Like if you're talking about quiz, I'll just talk about that. Like maybe after the class, or maybe after the class, I'll just discuss about it. No worries, right? Okay, so CSS cascading style sheets, and you know why I'm not replying over here? There's a reason behind that, but again, just leave that. So cascading style sheets. So we are talking about that we want to give some cool looks and feels to our document. Now I'll give you a very interesting example. There is a website called CSS Zen Garden. I'll show you that this CSS Zen Garden is a very interesting website. It is a website that has been provided by some guys, and it says the beauty of CSS design. It will show us that how different CSS designs can be implemented on the same text file. Right? What does that mean? Let me show you. This is some data. There is some cool fonts have been used. It's not looking that pretty, but again, it has some of the links on the right side, and it has just some text over here, and it has a lots of things over there. So requirements, and there is some bottom. There are some icons being used over there. So this is a very nice website. Now let's talk about some other shapes of it. CSS Zen Garden. If I go to some number over here. Now, this is the same content that you were looking at over here. I'll show you the beauty and all those things. This Zen Garden will be basically, now it is shown in a very different format. Let me show you some more. If I show you some other designs. So this is the same Zen Garden, like CSS Zen Garden, which has been showing a different style. So you see, the same text has been implemented so many different styles, and even more than that. Let me show you some more. So you see, this is same Zen Garden. So we are just applying some styles, and now our website goes from where to where. You see that our website is going from so many, from different styles. So it's going into some different areas. So that is what CSS does. And not only that, CSS has, let me just pull up one of the things that I want to pull up for this one, and I'll show you something very interesting. I'm just putting up one of my document where I have some links for this one, and I will show you there. Let's see if I found my right document. Moves. Okay, so these are the different styles. So what CSS Zen Garden does, that it's a document that has been provided that you can always work on that one, and you just keep on applying different CSS, and you can work or you can practice on that one. Now, an interesting part is that not only like this, there is something that I want to show you. That's what I am just wanting or for trying to find the link of. If I'm able to find that, that would be definitely great. Okay. Okay. It's there. No. Design. I'll just quickly find that out because I don't have that link with me. Anyhow, so there are lots of things that you can do with the CSS design, and this same CSS code has been converted into so many different things. So we also want to do that. We also want to do what? That our websites, till now, whatever websites we have created, so they all look very simple. They all look very, very, without any styling, without any colors. And now I want to apply that. So CSS, cascading style sheets, to apply styles to the websites. Number one, the first thing that it does is that we used it for applying the styles. And I'll show you the notes as well for this one, because that would give you more sense of this. So yes, so if you see here that this is basically what that we have just we use this CSS. So HTML5 we don't include markup related to how our page should look. So HTML is never meant for how your page should look. HTML is only meant for just structuring out your document. Instead, we focus on its structure, layout, and organization. We put all information in a style sheets text file that defines CSS selectors rule how to style our HTML elements. Now, how we want our elements to appear, for that we do what? We just define some CSS stylings. And after applying those CSS stylings, what we do is that we try to apply that. Now, let's start with this one, CSS syntax. CSS Zen Garden, they've just explained. Now, CSS syntax. CSS is made up of rules. There are rules for the styling in the CSS. What are those? Which are broken into two parts. The first part is called a selector, specifying the element that should have the rules applied. And the second part says one or more declarations which are key value pairs surrounded by the braces. So a rule in CSS looks like this, where we have two parts. One part is the selector, only the tag, like tag number, or you can say the tag name, without anything, with no tag sign. And alongside that, it has a rule. Yeah, exactly, pretty much like an object, and it has a rule in a key value mapping pair. Right. So now to practice this one, I will give you a very interesting website, codepen.io. Can you all just pull up this codepen.io and hit on start coding? I'll show you something. So for example, here I'll just put an H1 tag, and I will say heading, and then I'll put a paragraph tag. It is a very just-in-time compiler that will show me a lots of things. It does not. It maybe provides. This is a paragraph, because we can quickly see that output over here. And let's see. Let's put an H2 over here. Subheading, and let's put another P over here, because I want to show you a few things. This is another paragraph. Now, CodePen. CodePen is something very interesting. I've just given some code over here. H1 is heading, this is paragraph, H2 is subheading. Now, our HTML always looks like this when we have not applied anything else, right? So we have just discussed that what are the rules for this CSS, and CSS rule is defined something like this. So if I just take out this one, Rather, I'll just write by myself. If I write just H1 and create a curly braces, right, and I say, for example, color, it's the foreground color we are talking about, and I say foreground color is equal to blue, color colon blue. Just write this one, and you will start seeing the styling applied to that one. I can apply a background color to it as well, background dash color. And remember, this is in kebab case, something like this. And you need to, so if I say background color yellow, you will see that my H1 is all surrounded by this background color yellow. Make sense to everyone? Now, whatever selector I will select over here, background color looks not bad, no, not good. I can just, and what is the style that they have given? Font size. Okay, we can just take that font size. So now I can just give font size. And I say 20 pixel, for example. We'll talk about some other. So 20 pixel is very smaller. Like I can say, for example, 60 pixel. Right? So it's a big one. So I can change the font size. You remember I told you that in CSS, we can change the font size and everything over there. So H1 has been given this style where its color has become blue, the foreground color, and the font size has become 60 pixels, something like that. Now, same I can apply with paragraph. So if I say paragraph and I just write the syntax, one point to note, a very important point to note over here. I have not closed this P. Now, if I write another H1 over here, another heading 1. So if you see that if I provided another one, it means that all H1s on my page, this style is saying all H1s on my page should become of these rules. So every H1 should have a color blue, and every H1 font size should have 60 pixels or something like that. Make sense? Now same goes with the paragraph. If I come over here and I say, for example, for a paragraph, again, I say color and I say red. Right? So you see all paragraphs have gone red. So background color, and I say, for example, green, something like that, very bad. So now all the paragraphs background colors have gone green. Now I can say again, I can use font size. So this is the method to apply styling on something like that. So if I say 15 pixel is a smaller one. So I can say 25 pixel. So see my font has. So now you see that I am just writing one style rule, and that style rule has been implemented on all those things. Does that make sense to everyone? So this is how CSS rules are defined. We define a CSS rule by defining a selector and then giving some of the values with that. So remember, this is typically called as a selector, and this is typically called as a rule or style that you want to apply on a particular document. You might be thinking that I'm off, like maybe I'm disconnected or maybe I'm somewhere else. But looks like I was just silent for maybe, other than Vinny, if someone can come up and say that, okay, we are just getting what we are discussing over here. Anyhow, I definitely won't ask it again. Anyhow, so it's basically a way to just define a style into that particular one. So I've just defined a style, and this is what. Now, a very important question comes over here, that so this CSS syntax we have talked about. Syntax. What is the syntax of CSS? That there are two things. One is called selector, where you want to apply, and what called style or rule, which you want to apply, right? And I have given that example, and that example is there. So if you say color blue, so that means this color blue is basically the rule or style that you want to apply. And this H1 in the top, this following H1 is a selector, right? So this is the CSS syntax. Now, where to put the CSS? A question comes, where to put CSS styles in our HTML document. Right, so where to put that style? Now, I would like to tell you there are multiple ways or multiple places where you can just put up these styles. And, we will be just talking about each one of them. And we'll see that where we can just, put them. So for that, what I'll do is that I'll create another file for today, index.html, right? And let's create this complete HTML file. And let's call it introduction to CSS, right? So I'm just giving introduction to CSS, and again, just like introduction to CSS, cascade the style sheets, right? So let's give some lorem here, lorem 70, right? So 31. So anyway. So now basically what we are doing, that this is our document that we'll be talking about, that where we can apply style to. Now I'll run this document first of all. But that is not the only place. I'll show you that what does that mean. Now this is a document that is coming up over here, and this is a very usual document. We have talked about that, and we can just work on that one. So where to put the CSS styling? I was just talking about. Now listen about this. One of the way of putting up style or putting in style in a document is that where you have defined the tag, at that point of time you define a style. So for example, I'll say style is equal to color red. If I hit save, and by the way, my H1 goes red. When you are defining the tag, you define style with that tag. If you are defining a style where you are defining the tag, this is called, number one, this is called inline style sheet or inline style. Right? So this is called inline style. So inline style, if I go over here and I say style equal to inverted commas, and I give a style, for example, I say font size is equal to, for example, 25 pixel. Right? If I do that and I hit save, you see my text has gone to 25 pixel. Now, whenever style is being defined like this, within the font, within the tag, it is called inline styling. It is called inline style sheet. When you define style within the element, this is called inline element, right? Inline styling. Right? So this is one of them. Now, this inline style is mostly not recommended, and you will know why. Because this looks like that I'll have to just, for every paragraph, I'll have to work very hard. I'll have to go to that paragraph and apply those styling too. So this is called inline styling. This is one example of inline styling. Yes. Now, let's talk about the other way. What is the other way of applying this style? So I've just taken away all the styles. The other way of defining style is that you go to the head and you type a style tag and apply a style in the same way as I have talked about. So you say color red, and you say, for example, just give a background color as well, just to check that. Make it very bad. Now, if I hit save, you will see that my style is applied over there. I can give a style to paragraph as well. So I'll say paragraph, and I say, for example, color green, right? And background color maybe a lightish shade or something like that. So you see that my text has gone something like this. When you define style in the head section of your document like this, it is technically called internal style sheet or internal styling. Internal, or it is also called embedded style sheet. Right? And what is that? The definition? When you define style in head section. Right? This is the second way of defining the styles. Now there is a third way of defining the styles, and that is called external style sheets, which is most widely used. And by the way, we can use both of them. Now see here now how easy it is that if I go over there and I just delete this styling, everything goes away. There is no style applied on my document now. Now, what is the third type of style? It is called external style sheet. What does that mean? I create a new file and I call that style.css. I'll be mostly naming it style.css. And I define a style inside that one. So H1 color, and I can give any new color, maybe blue violet maybe, and then background color, and I can give any other color as well. And I can say, for example, I can say a paragraph should have a color of yellow green, something like that, and its color should be this one, and the background color or the font size should be 30 pixels, something like that. If I hit save, nothing happens. Why? Because I have created this style.css, and now I want to attach this style sheet with my document. Remember, I have to link this style sheet. Now, how to link this style sheet? Remember one very important point. Inside the head section, maybe go after the title, inside the head section, and write link. Link, a relation, we are creating a link, and the relation of this link is with the style sheet. And what is the name of style sheet? If it is in the same folder, style.css. Now, as I hit save, see what happens on the right side if it is rightly connected. If I hit save, you see my document has changed. If you define a style outside of your environment, outside of your document, and you connect or link your document with that one, it is typically called as external style sheets. When you define an external file and link your HTML with that, right? When you define that and you link that one. So this is called external style sheet. Right now, how easy it has become. I will just come over here and I can just change whatever I want over here. So, for example, I come over and that says Azure is not the right color, and I want some other color. So I'll just come over here, and I'll just put up, for example, any other color. Let me just say something, the beige color, right? So you see that my colors are so interestingly applied. So these are the 4 places where we say that we have got these different places. And by the way, there can be a combination of these as well. What do you mean by combination? Instead of applying on tax name, we can define our own name. Yes, Brian, that's wonderful thing. But Brian, right now I'm just trying to make very basics of everyone. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just trying to tell you the very basic of it. And then we'll move to that. Yes, your tag, you will be defining IDs, you'll be defining classes, and you'll be defining lots of interesting things. Brian, you make sense of it? So yes, that's right what you are saying. So yeah, so there can be a collection of these three as well. So for example, if I come over here after this link, if I put a style sheet and I say H1 and I say color red. Now see here what will happen. My H1 has one red. Even though in the style sheet I have defined it blue violet color. Why it is going red? Because this style sheet will override our external style sheet because it is inside the head section. Makes sense to everyone? It will override that. Not only that, if I come to this H1 and if I say style equal to, and I say here color yellow. Now see what will happen. Control S. Very bad. My H1 is now yellow. Are you understanding this overriding of behavior of these styles? That this style will, because this is inline, this is just defined before the tag. It will override the previous style which was in the head, and it will override the previous style which is coming from the external style sheet. That's wonderful. You understand that concept of defining styles and defining them and overriding them. Now, another very important point to note. We can connect to any number of style sheets we want in our document. We can connect to any number of style sheets. And rather, by the way, you will see professionally we use lots of style sheets in our one document, and we typically work on lots of style sheets while we are working on our document. I'll talk about that, and I'll tell you that how we can just do that. And one of the very important one, let me just tell you, and one of the I would like to tell you, there are certain already made style sheet that users have provided, and they say that you can use that. So for example, there is a skeleton one. So if I copy its URL from here, and if I come over here and I say link, and href is equal to, now in href I will give that link which I have copied from here. So this is skeleton CSS, and it's a pre-made CSS style sheet that you can always use. So if I just come over here and I save this my document, if I hit save, see here if I hit save, you see most of the things have changed over here, and it will give you a very nice effect. Sometimes we'll be just using that one for our particular task. So I can connect any number of style sheets over here. There is a style sheet of Bootstrap, and there are lots of style sheets. But again, you have to remember that every style sheet. But again, you remember that whatever is basically in that style sheet, that will be implemented over here. Are you getting that? Let me tell you another very interesting thing. So for example, if I just take this away, and you are familiar with the buttons and forms and everything. So if I just come over in P, and if I just create a button, just to check, right? So I've created a button, and this button is showing like that. Now, if I come over here and if I paste that same thing in link, if I paste that one, you see how my button will start looking like. Okay, not style for the. I'm not using the same. It looks like link, and let's copy that skeleton CSS. So just copy that. Yeah, what will happen? That's a very good question, Vinny. And I would like you to answer that, by the way. I would like you to answer that. Now see that button has gone so very nice. Now, if you have two definitions, it will, so whatever style will be coming from here, you see my style is basically overriding that. You see my H1 is becoming of this blue violet color. Why? Because I am like this style sheet will override all the style. Let me show you something. If I take away my style sheet, I comment it for a second and save, hit save. You see that all of the styles that are coming from the back, on this skeleton CSS. Yeah, exactly. So whatever is not defined, that keeps on changing. Whatever is defined, that will all be captured from that one. So you see that it's all coming over here, and if you see that button is also changing very nicely. Now I can see this button over here, which is very interesting over there. You know what I mean? So you can use the concept is you can use so many style sheets and over here, and you can just copy their URL. You can link your document to that one, Vinny, and you will be able to just run that. Make sense? Now here comes that question same again. I'll just go back to the notes. Now, what are the different types of selectors that we have? Someone was already mentioning that. We can select something but the tag name. Is that because the file is in your device or because it comes first on head? Okay, no. Yeah. So that's basically, the file is the external file is coming from the outside world. And this head, the style that I'm defining is within my sources. So it goes and it overrides all those styles that are not coming from that. You know what I mean, Vinny? So it just overrides those styles which are not coming from the back. So it overrides only those issues. And I'll tell you something very interesting. All those which are not defined, they won't be overridden. So all those which are defined, they will be overridden. Interestingly. Make sense? Okay, now see here. So we can access the selector by tag name, we can select by ID, and we can select by class. Yes, tag name of element, tag name or element name, something like that. Right? So these are the three types of them. And I take back you to this my code pen code. Now you see here, this selector right now if I just remove that one. So this selector right now, and I'll just remove that one just to show you. So this selector is right now is selecting this H1. So I can use this H1, or there is another way. So you see that there are two H1 and both are getting this one. So if I come to this H1 and I say ID equal to heading 2, something like that. I've given an ID is equal to heading 2. Now I want to apply just a style to this heading 2. What I'll do to define a style for the ID, I always use a hash. Remember hash for the ID. So I say hash heading 2. Tariq, is that making sense? Heading 2. And now if I say color green, now see here what will happen. So it has overridden because I am defining for the ID. So it says, okay, for this ID, whatever style is coming from H1, I will override that. that one. And I'll talk about this is called specificity, and I'll talk about that later on maybe. But right now, just understand because I define. Or maybe not color green. I say only my heading font size should become a bit bigger. So you see here now, now Vinny, you will get your answer. H1 was defined as the color blue. So this one was H1. So it has adopted one style from H1, the color blue. And the other style which is coming, the font size which is coming, it is coming from its ID's style, and it is accepting that one. Vinny, are you getting that? And if you want to change that color as well, so you see what you'll do. You will say, okay, green. I want it to be green. You see overriding. Now overriding is done, Vinny, in a real sense. I hope that would have answered so many people's question. So first of all, this is called ID. Now, ID is basically something which is unique on your web page. Usually, it's a unique item on your web page. There is another way that we define a particular style of class, and then we call that style for particular. So this ID is heading to, there can be only one ID of heading to in my document. Now, what if I want to have multiple, one style applied to multiple classes of multiple things? For that, we create a class, and the class is called with a class is defined with that dot. So if I say a demo class, and I say background color, and for example, green, and color yellow. Now see here what I'll do. Right now it is not implemented or anything. Now I have created a class. Class is always created by using this dot. If I go to this paragraph and I do one very interesting thing, I say class equal to demo. So now it has become so interesting. I can say class equal to demo. See what is happening? Is everyone with me? I can create another P, and I can say P class equal to demo, and I can create anything over here, and that will have style applied to that. You see that this class. So class can be used in multiple styles, multiple things. Exactly, Brian. That's wonderful. Now see here, when you are creating a ID, you will use a hash sign to define that, and when you are creating a class, you will use a dot sign to define that. Exactly. For class, what we do, Vinny, what we do, we define a class in a situation where we want to implement on a particular, multiple things. Now I'll show you something interesting over here. So if I come over here and I just, for example, say class red or demo. Again, I create a class demo, and I say, for example, color. Again, right now I'm just taking very limited, colors and everything, limited properties. There are whole lots of properties by the way. And background color equal to something. Just for fun, I'm just doing that. So I just created a class demo, which is not implemented anywhere. So of course, there is not there. So if I go to my index.html and I do something like that. So if I create after this or before this button, if I create a paragraph and I give it a class equal to demo, and I give some lorem here. Now, as I hit save, see what will happen. This is the class implemented to this one. And by the way, if you are just feeling something interesting, let me show you. Class is equal to demo. So again, it will also occupy, it will also, override some of these stylings. Some of these stylings will be the previous one. Should I hope that you are making sense of all these things? This is very interesting, that you define a style one time and you can just, use it and many times. For ID is typically you define ID in a situation where you feel that there is one element that would be just following this up, and you just give that one element, and that one element works for you, and you just define the ID for that. But class typically will always be used in situations where you know that I have defined one style and I want this style to be implemented on all of the other class, or maybe there may be some certain that way. But again, as I said, that I have just talked about very few properties till now, and I'll talk about lots of properties shortly, but I wanted to just give you a quick sense of that one. So I hope that's all making sense to everyone, just hopefully. Okay, just give me a second. Okay. Right. So now see here. So this is basically styling, and that is what. Now there are certain types of selectors that we have talked about. Class selectors are there, and there are certain characters that we can just work with them. So let me just show you some more interesting things before we go. So ID selector is that. Now contextual selector, that's very important. Contextual selector. So selectors can be of multiple types of selectors. And you will really see that they are really very, very important types of selectors. One of them are called contextual selectors. Contextual selectors. Contextual selectors. Now let's talk about this, and I'll again take back you to my code pen, because I'll first show you and then I'll just talk about that. So let me just remove that one, everything. So we have got classes and everything. We have got something like this. So if I say, see here, and I will just do one thing. I'll just remove this, and let's create a div, for example. So let's create a div. So it's a div inside that, and let's create a paragraph, and this, or maybe just H1 first, because that will feel good, or H2 heading and paragraph. I'll create a paragraph, and I'll say the text goes here. Right, so I've created one div. Let me create a paragraph technically without anything. So I'll say this is without a div. It's not inside a div, it's outside of it. Now see here, if I want to apply style on this paragraph, but I don't want to apply style on this paragraph because this paragraph is lying inside that div, you will know the importance of div and span over here as well. So what I'll do, the contextual selector is called, if I say div, or for example, if I say P, paragraph color green. So for example, paragraph color green. So you see every paragraph goes green. Now if I come here before this P, if I give a div space P, see what will happen, and how many understand what is going on, what has happened in this contextual selector. So contextual selector only selects that particular. So if you give a space and you say that so the P which is inside div, and again that same goes with H2. For example, if I produce another H2, heading 2, right? There is a heading 2, and I want to implement some style on heading 2, for example, overall. Now, for example, or only on the inside that one. So I'll say div H2 background color black and color white, again to see the text. So let's talk about that. I have said that div H2 should have this style. Now see, this heading 2 is not getting that style, even that is getting that. So if I just remove this div from here and just come with that, are you understanding that? So div space H2 is giving what? It's saying that this is a contextual selector, and I have to only apply the style to that particular H2 which is falling inside div tag. Brian, making sense to you? I hope this all is making sense to you. So that's what it's basically. It's called contextual selector, and this, believe you me, this will play a very important role when you'll be doing styling. Okay, we can collect some of the elements together. What does that mean? That will be technically called as grouping selectors. So I'll just write that in the notes. So contextual selector and then grouping selectors. I can group few selectors. What does that mean? I just do that. I say that to H1, comma, paragraph, comma, or maybe paragraph, H1, comma, paragraph, comma, for example, anything, span. We don't have anything. So H1, comma, paragraph, comma, span. If all of these come, their background color should be black and color should be white. You know what I mean? That H1 paragraph for span. So you see here we have just paragraphs, no H1. So if I come over here and I write H1, hello, you see that H1 is already. So I have collected multiple selectors together. So to collect them together, you use comma. But let's just ask the question. If I take away this comma, what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that there is a P which is in H1 and there is a span inside this P. You apply only to that. That's why you see that no one has applied this time. But now I want it to be applied to all these. So I'll just say comma. So it will be implemented to all of these grouping selectors. This is called grouping. So for example, you say that H1 comma, H2 comma, H3 comma, H4, whatever these headings, whenever they come, and their color should be red, something like this. So now their color is red. So whatever heading is appearing, they all have the color red. Right? And there are multiple other things that we can do, and I'll be just telling you that what are them. Now, the other thing that you want to, so it means that we can group selectors. If we do H with always H1, Brian, I'm not making sense of your question. Will all H1 will change? Okay, right. So when I just do, for example, you mean? Oh no. That's not the case. That's not the case. Yeah, I understand what you are saying. So you say if I just do with the red, so you see that only H1 will be affected, no H2. And yes, if you want to implement that too, you will have to implement H2 over here as well. Add H2 over here. Brian, got the answer? You need to add that. Only H1 will never work that way. And that's the behavior of that one. Okay, now another very important aspect of it. After grouping selectors, we have another way. We define containers for styling. And this is very important, another very important one. Containers for styling. We usually define containers Okay, was I disconnected for a second? Yeah, I was disconnected, I think. Now I'm back. I don't know why I got disconnected. Anyhow, let's see again. So yes, maybe I clicked on the wrong button, but I never did that. Anyhow, so now see here, you can see my screen. Brian, you can see my screen with this styling. Okay, so now let's talk about something of border, so for example, let me just delete all these, and let me just let's create some paragraph over here. For example, this is a paragraph not inside any div, right? This is a paragraph which is not inside divs. There is a span tag that we can use. This is a span without a div, right? No div, or just write that this is a span, right? And now I'll define a div. So another shortcut for defining a div with a class is very important shortcut. Class is defined with dot. So you write info, for example, info.box. For example, I'm creating a class of info.box. If I do that, this div will be created, info.box, info-box, right? And for example, if I give a P and I give a span inside that and I say name, and after the span, I say Alan Smith, my favorite name, Alan Smith, and the paragraph ends over here. Now, if I write another paragraph and I say span and I say age and I give any random age, so this paragraph also ends. right? And then I can just give, for example, anything at all. Just leave that one. So let me show you this document. Where is that? It's here. Okay, why it is showing these colors? Of course, because I am applying these styles. I'm just right now for the second, I'm just making them comment, and just there is no style being applied. Only my style sheet is working. The skeleton one is working. That's why font and all those things are visible over there. Now let's define some styles over there. So if I say, for example, dot info slash box dash box. You remember what I'm talking about? I have a box. I have a div box, info box. So I'm saying that go and access that box. And there is another property. Now I'm introducing another property, which is called border. Border. And bear with me. I will tell you what does that mean. But I'll just, I'm just write with me. 1 pixel solid green. If I just give that, bear with me. I'll tell you what is this 1 pixel solid green. And right now it makes it, if it is making sense to you, it will create a border around that box. So now save this one. Now, do you see that this border is only appearing on that div? Do you understand that? This div info box, because I have created a border around this box. Is that right? So now that border is not affecting anything else. So border is another property that we have found over here, right? Interestingly, we have found another border property that we have that is over there, right? So what I say, okay, for example, if I say info box space P, info box space P. Now I'm talking about only those paragraphs which are inside info box. So for example, there is another tag which a property which is called font family. So for example, right now just write this serif font. I want to change the font of this paragraph. You see which paragraph font has changed. You see only the inside paragraph font has changed. It's not looking very good. But let's see what are the other families. So if I say font family and I want to change this one to something else, let's change it to Vedana, something like that. So you see that only this font is changed. You see that? And if I say, why I'm saying this paragraph is exactly the same that it was before. Now if I say info box span, see here, and I say, for example, font size. So span font size should be increased, for example, 20 pixel. If I hit save, you see only span font has changed. And where is this span? If you see, span is just for the names. So it will look really bad if I just make it very big. And of course, you see name and age. So both of them are inside scan. So this span is changing, but this span is not. Again, syntactical, no, contextual. You know what I mean? So for example, you can say, for example, 20, and I just want to keep it to this one. Can we have background color without any white border? Like the background color occupies all screen width. I know really where are you coming from. Just bear with me and you will get that. I know what you want to use. And definitely you will get that, but bear with me because I know that you want to implement a typical thing, but which is not over here. So now if you see here that there are properties that I can implement on that particular box. So this only properties will only apply to the box. Is that right? So that's basically I have created a box and I can just work on that one and I have got this one. Now you can play with this one. Lots of playing with this. So for example, if I just remove that, so it goes to paragraph have gone to the green color, and of course all style that is coming. So for example, you can say if a paragraph, give a border to paragraph as well, just to check 1 pixel solid black. So I want to give a solid black paragraph. So it looks very bad. But again, you can just play with all these kind of things. And this is not looking good. Let's, rather than doing that, if I place an H1 over here, H1 testing different styles, right? So if I do that, this is coming. So H1 has been given a style over there. So if I come over here and I say I want to have a border with that, I say 1 pixel solid black. So you see here now H1 will have a solid background, like will have a solid style, like that one which is surrounded over there. And to your surprise, maybe I'll talk about these properties a lot. If I say border bottom only, you see only border will appear at the bottom. If I say bottom right, bottom right. So if you notice that only there is a border on the right side. Can you see that? There's a border on the right side. So border has all those properties, and if I just give a border, it will just occupy the border from the all sides. But if you want to give that, for example, border top, and make it a bit thicker so that I can see that. Not 13, 3 pixels on it. You see here. Now a very cool effect you can create. You can say border right, and you can say 3 pixel solid red, and hit save. You see all paragraphs have a border, and that border is basically just going out of that one. Or maybe if I do that with the span, because the span is span, and I want to do it with this span at least. So you see that after every span there is a line. Can we change border width? Yeah, border width. I'm changing that border width. How can we apply? Okay, yes, that's wonderful. So that border top, and right now just remember this one, and then I say, and I'll tell you that you can have multiple properties as well. Border bottom. So you only have this one top and the bottom, Kunal. And by the way, you can change that. So you say on the bottom, I want a 10 pixel solid border of any other color. So for example, green color, something like that. You see that now have a border of that. Interesting, isn't it? So we have got all those styles. So I'll just take a quick break, and I would definitely start from this point onwards. So there are lots of properties of CSS that we can use that, but please bear with me. Try not to Google anything out for the CSS right now. Try to understand the concept. I hope you understand the concept that this border is coming wherever you are applying something, that is basically coming over there. So our info box has a border of 1 pixel. If I can do this 10 pixels, you see that I can change the styles of the font very quickly. So can we make a very cool website just very shortly in a very short span of time? Of course, yes. There are lots of things that you can do over here. Oh yeah. So Brian, I think I've given there for the style. You can use that pre-made. Like I've given some links over there. You can use a skeleton or something like. And by the way, just to before going into the break, I'll show you some more interesting things. I think this was which was the week where we created our article and all those things, because I want to show you how effectively. Oh, this was only script. It was, I think, week number. It would be 6 maybe, where we created article and all those things. So I want to show you that how this will be changed. February 17th. No, this is one. Oh, Stack Overflow. This one. So Stack Overflow document. I'll run that one, and I'll show you that how much effect this CSS will place on that. I have copied this URL again, and see if it is working. My Stack Overflow, where it is running. Okay, it's here. Now you see this is Stack Overflow document, and if I come to the top of it, after the title, I create a link, and I paste that same skeleton CSS. You see how my website started to look cool. You see that? So we can use lots of pre-made. If you go to the Wikipedia page, do the same, and just paste that one and save that. Okay, check the Wikipedia page, and I'll show you, by the way, before putting that one. So I'll cut that. So you see my Wikipedia page is like this, the page that we created. And now if I come over here and I paste that one, I can just do that one. So we have this now. The page looks very different from that one. It started to look cool already. That's wonderful. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so Kunal, yes, that's wonderful to know. So let's take a quick break of 5 minutes, and I'll be back after 5 minutes, and we'll discuss from here onward. So you can just always implement all those things on your web pages and things like that, right? So that's where we are stopping, and we'll see you on the other side of break. We'll put for 5 minutes. Let's just start our discussion. So we have talked about these kind of different things that we can implement different styles by using different techniques. Now I talk about some of the some of the important things that you can do with this one. Let's say what we want to discuss over here. So I have told you that you can always do that, like, implement some of the CSS on that. They will start looking cool, and I don't want to just, work on them. So this is our document right now, which will not be running because I have closed my Visual Studio by mistake. Okay, I don't want you, I don't want you, I don't want you. Rather, I don't want this folder. Right. So let me just run my file as well so that we can see what's going on. Where is it running? It's not running till now. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, so this was the style that we have just implemented. And if I just want to just take it away, I'll just save that and everything will go away. Now let's talk about something more. So containers, we have talked about. This div is a container, and then we can create another container, which is a smaller one. Span is a container that we can create. So we'll just talk about those two containers or different containers anyhow. Now we are talking about some very important aspects of it. CSS units. There are certain units that we use with the font size, with the width, and with all those things. And we want to just be very sure that what we are defining and what we are using as a typical one. Now let's talk about the fonts first of all. You see that I have been setting fonts by using pixels right now, but let's see what are the other values that we can set. So on our web page, the default font size is in points. It is 12 pt. Right, 12 pt is the default font size. So again, if I don't give an H1 or something, so for example, if your paragraph, this paragraph is, let's talk about this. This is a 12 pt in points. This is 12 pt points, right? Which is equal to 16 pixels. 16 in pixels, right? Now that's good. There is another unit which is called EM. 1 EM. We call it 1M, and then we'll talk about 1 RAM as well. There are two of them. But anyhow, so which is equal to 1 EM, 1M, which is equal to 100%. Now this will fit in most of your things, like font size. Starting from the font size, then we can go to anything at all. So for example, what I want to say, I said to you that this is by default 16 pixels. So if I come over here and I say paragraph and font size, so if I say 16 pixel, just for my understanding, I'll giving you 16 pixel. So you see there is no difference on my font size. If I say 12 pt, no difference on my font size, still the same. If I say 1 EM, 1 EM is one that will be. So again, this is the same. And if I say my font size should be 100%, so that's also the same. You know what I mean? So now let's start talking about, first of all, this EM. EM is the most important one that we'll see. EM. So EM or M, it's also called M. It's basically why it's called M. It's called the width of capital letter M. For that reason, it is called an M. Now, this is a very interesting unit. It's a scalable unit. It's a scalable unit. What does that mean by scalable unit? A scalable unit is that which shrinks or expands with our viewing areas. You know what I mean? 1 EM means, and by the way, if I just say 1 EM to anything, I'm basically talking about, I'm saying that this is 16 pixel in size. So for example, if I go to style, and again, in paragraph, I say font size, as I said, 1 EM. So please bear in mind that I'm talking about this should be 16 pixels. Now, if I say 2em, what I'm talking about, can anyone let me know what size I'm talking in pixels? What size I'm talking about? If I hit save, you will say yes, 32 pixels. And if I just keep on increasing that, I am talking about that font size keeps on multiplying, because I am just saying that it has to be. Now, interestingly, we can go. This is 1em is the default size. I can go below 1 as well. So if I say 0.7em, you see my font size goes. Exactly, that's wonderful. What is the minimum? If I say 0.1 em, Kunal, can you see that? 1 em has gone very short. And what is maximum, Kunal? There is no range of maximum. So, for example, if I say 100 em, which is which is what should I the word I should which is crazy. I've just done 100 times em. Of course, you don't go to that size, but usually if you say 2 em, it means that you're talking about the double the size. Yeah, crazy, Kunal, you're right. That's all crazy. So it will go the double of the size. Now remember that we try to use this em, or because I feel that I should discuss. There is another called which is called rem, but I'm not discussing that. So right now we usually try to give our font size in em, and remember that when I say, so if I say 1.2 em, I'm talking about that 1.2 em means, so again, whatever is the 16 pixel and then 0.2 from that one. You know what I mean? So that is basically an EM unit, and we will be usually using this EM unit. Now, I'll tell you what does that mean to some particular things. So, for example, if I say this is 2 EM, which is 35 pixel, and I'll do one more exercise for you. If I say, for example, this is my paragraph. Let me give a paragraph ID, because I want to show you something. ID is equal to para 1. So this is my paragraph 1, right? And let's create another paragraph, because I want to show you the color the difference between them. So if I say P ID equal to para 2, and this is para 2, right? So I have a para 2 as well over here. Now I want to show you something. So if I come to style, and if I say that the P should be, now not P, I'll just use the ID over here. So if I say para 1, the para 1 should be of font size 2em. So you see, this paragraph has gone 2em because this paragraph is para 1. You know what I mean? And if I say hash para 2, and I give it the font size 32 pixels. Now, you might be thinking that I've done the same thing. 2em means that 32 pixel, and 32 pixel means 32 pixel. Now I want to show you something. This is my web page. If you go to the settings of this Chrome, where is the settings? Go to the settings and go to appearance, and this font size. Do you see the font size over here? And just try to do, because this font size is for those those people who have that they want to see very small text or very large text. So if I say very small, someone wants to see very small text on my web browser. You know what I mean? If I close this one, can someone tell me what is going on? What has happened with my text? This para 1 has gone smaller. This para 2 is of exactly the same size. Are you making sense of these two things? And why it's happening? Because this one, yeah, exactly, 32 pixel is the fixed size, and this EM keeps on changing itself. Now, not only that, let's go to another setting again. We go back to the settings, and we go back to the appearance, and I say not very small, very large, right? And I close that one. Now you see here that this paragraph, this is 2em, it has gone stretched, and if you see that it's exactly the same space. You understand the difference between M and 32 pixels? So we rather, for the font size, we rather prefer EM as the unit, M as the unit, rather than anything else. But of course, we can use pixel as well. That's up to you. But this pixel will create this kind of problem. So whenever that user will change their properties, the user will change their preferences. So they will see our fonts according to adaptable according to that one. Go to appearance, and I'll just make it medium. Recommended one, medium. So now they will both look like same. Why? Because now they are on exactly the same thing. So we have just discussed two of them. Then there is another one in PT points. So I've told you that 12 points is that one. So if I say 24 PT, again I'm talking about that same size, 24 PT. What is a PT, by the way? And I'll just write that over here. So PT is a fixed size. It's another fixed size, and it's called point, right? It's another fixed size. And 1 PT is equal to 1 upon 72 inches. So it's the 72nd type of inches and something like that. Okay, then comes the percent. And percent, that it is similar to EM. And why it is similar to EM? That it always scales. 100% also scales. So if I just show you, for example, if I give it 1 EM and I give it 100%. Right. So again, 1 EM and 100%. So again, if you see that again, that viewing area, if we just go to that one, for example, that 100% will set up that. You can just look at maybe settings if it shows me. In appearance, very small, and both of them are going to very small because now it's going in the percentages. But this percentage also works on that. But anyhow, it might not be showing the right thing over here. But when you create the boxes and things like that, you will see the difference very clearly. That is percentage and that one. So percentage is basically the 100% of whatever we have just used in the width as well. Now there is one more thing that I want to discuss over before we go. That we have VW and VH, and that's very important. Another one. It's called viewport width and viewport height, right? Viewport width and viewport height. So that's what this viewport width and viewport height are. What they are, very interesting one. So they are the percentages of visible space in the viewport. Now remember, there is something which is very important, which is called viewport. Viewport is a very, very interesting and important thing. What is the viewport? The part of the page, you can see the window's height and width. And I'll tell you that we have seen this well before as well. So part of the window that we see. And do you remember when we create our HTML, you find something over there. You see meta name is equal to viewport. Have you seen that? Now I'll explain that. You remember I did not discuss it anywhere. Now, so this viewport is basically telling what? That I'm saying that meta name is equal to viewport, content is equal to width is equal to device width. Whatever is the width, device width, my application or my website will try to fix into that one. So this viewport is coming from that exactly the same place. So this viewport height and viewport width, that's very interesting. Which window I'm looking at, the height of that window or the width of that window. So if I say 1 VW, it is same as 1%. 1% of something. Right? And if I say, for example, so 1% of the width of the viewport. And if I say, for example, 80 VH, viewport height is the same as 80% of the visible height. So whatever is on the screen, it will show you that it is basically the height of the. So viewport width and viewport height, I'll be using them a lot. Viewport width and viewport height, and you will just talk about them. We will just see that how we can work on that one. Right. So there are certain other properties of CSS as well that we work. So one of the property I'll talk about font property. And they are very interesting because I'll talk about how you can use different fonts. So you see that whenever we define a font family for something, for example, if I say for the font 1, and let's make it 2M so that I can see the font size, or 3M, that's good, no problems. So there is a property called font family. and I can apply different fonts. You see that there are lots of options available already for me. So for example, if I say Gill Sans, something like this, my font will be changed into something like this. And if I say I want to have some other fonts, it just keeps on just providing these families. So there are lots of families available over here. If I say that I want to go some other family, so I'll say, for example, I want to go this Seago, something like that. It will change my font to something like differently. So this is called the font family. So we can change the font family typically by implementing that one. And over here, if I say that I want to apply a font, because I'm giving both places because I will show you some differences. So impact, I want to have an impact font family. You see that this font is also changed. So you can change a lot of fonts and you can just play with them. Now there is something called web fonts. We can use web fonts. So there are default fonts available, like default font family. Now we have something called web fonts, and that's quite interesting that we'll use. Default font, right? So we have this web fonts. Now we will talk about this. Call a specific font. Yeah, exactly. We can call a specific font as well. You're right. So Vinny, you can just do that. For example, not a family. So family is again there for the fall down. Like if it fall down, this font should be available, that font should be available. But you can always define that one. So let's talk about the web fonts. So web fonts, there are lots of fonts available on internet that you can use. So if I say Google Fonts, so you name it and they have it. Like there are so many fonts available over there. I'll show you. So for example, these are all the fonts that are here. So for example, I say this railway looks like good to me. For example, I open that one. So this is the font that I have this over here. And I say, okay, this looks very nice to me. So I say, okay, select this font. And now, by the way, how we'll use this font, I'll show you. When you click on that one, okay, just give me a second. I want to work on this railway font, right? Okay, just hold on a minute. I just move because I want to show you the way to add that, because I have already previously added one. I just want to keep this. And if I refresh that, yeah. So see here, I have two ways of embedding this font. So for example, I say that I want to have this style, and I have already selected this one, right? So what I'll do, that I have multiple ways. I can use this link for that one, or I can use this import. So I'll tell you this import one, and I will just copy. Okay, if I copy this from style to style, it means I will paste that in HTML. I can paste that in HTML. So first of all, I'll do that. So I'll copy that one, Control C. I go to my HTML code, and I go to my top, like on the head, because this is a style tag. So I have imported this one, and not only imported that, then you will use this font family railway, whatever you have. So if you come over there, you will come to your style.css, and for example, I'll come over here and I'll say, so for paragraph 2, I want to have this railway family. Now, see here. Now, as I hit save, you see what happens. As I hit save, you see that now this paragraph 2 is basically showing me that font, or these all, like these all have gone into different styles, and this is coming over there. So railway font, and let me just implement this one for the bigger one. Right, so why it's implementing on all? Okay, so why it is implementing on all? Because I have just used this import over here. So it is just basically implementing over there. So now I'll do what? I can just do one more thing. I can copy, like for example, I can copy this import from here, and or rather, what I'll do, I can do both ways, but again, I'll just telling you. So I'm not copying that style as over here. Rather, what I'll do is that I will just import this. And import how? I'll just use this import statement, Control C. I'll go to my style, go to the very top, and I just give it over here, and I say that I won't have this style. Okay. Now let's see that. if it is implementing or I'm doing something wrong. It's not implementing, or easy group error 1, and I have a hash error 1. Okay. Okay, it's implementing on everything, and that's not good. That's bad. It should not be implementing on everything, rather it should be implementing on that as well, that only. Good. You see that it's changing the font for everything, which I don't want. Let's see. Have I removed that one? Yes, that's not there. So why it's just showing these fonts? Good. Da, da, da. Make it comment for a second. Okay. Okay, and if I come here and I just again use that import statement, it's import, it's already there. And if I just change the font family over here, font family, and I have that railway and sans serif. Oh yeah, so you see that it's basically now changing that one. So now I'll show you. I don't know why it's just implementing on all of them when I'm using. So you see now this font is only changed. You see, I just implemented on that one. And now I'll see that why it is just, this style sheet is creating problem, because maybe this style sheet has some, so this style sheet is creating problem. This style sheet might have some style being already applied to it. So I'm just, closing it for a second. So you see that I can change any of the font. Now this random font I have used, there is one more font that I will tell you that which is very interesting, that mostly the Google applications used mostly. So what is that font? That is called Roboto font. So Google uses this Roboto font a lot. So if you go to the Roboto font and you want to use it for a particular heading or something like that, so again, go to this import statement, and this is just for the railway style. So again, it is just keep on adding those one, and I want to remove this now. And this is my Roboto font, and I want to use this Roboto font, and I will go to import. Just import this Roboto font from this. You go to my document, my style, and again I'll import that, so I can import any number of sheets over here. And now what I'll see is that I'll say, for example, H1 should have a font family, and you can copy this from here. Font H1 should have a font family of this one, the Roboto. Now let's see my document. Okay, have I used H1 in at all? Yes, so I have this testing different styles. So now it is basically implemented as a Roboto font, and I can just make its font size a bit bigger. Font size, and let me give 4 EM, right? So I'm just giving 4 EM. So you see that now this is of different style, this is of different style, and these fonts are of different styles. Make sense of you? If you apply it in para 1, yeah, you can apply it anywhere you want. So you want to apply this Roboto over there, I'll cut that from here. Cut it from here, and this para 2. Yeah, exactly. Yes, you need to import that. So you see that this is now in para 2, right? So you can embed any number of fonts from this Google fonts, and you have all the things in front of you, right? So I'll stop here, and we'll talk about some more interesting properties in the coming class. But this coming class will be a video recorded class. And I know that there will be, of course, there will be so many people who will not be looking at that. But anyhow, let's talk about it. So let's stop over here. So I have just completed some web fonts and things like that. Rather from the web fonts, we have talked about Google fonts here. So we have used Google fonts, and there can be lots of web fonts that we can use. So I'm stopping here and stopping recording first of all.